They warned him it would destroy his career. They warned the actor it would make him untouchable forever. And they warned every top studio in Hollywood, stay clear or perish, too.
Everyone was told, from Rupert Murdoch, from Fox, to every studio, look, if you touch this thing, you will be out, you will be done. You'll be finished in 3 years.
Nobody heard him. Nobody came. And then Mel Gibson unleashed a move Hollywood had never dared to imagine before.
It was self-funded, and it was a very strange experience, that one, because I put the money in, and I thought, well, maybe I'll break even.
He risked it all on a tale they fought to erase, and when the chaos faded, Hollywood faced a dilemma it still struggles to comprehend.
Anyone just see that? Anyone just see what that guy did? Can't let that guy do that again. And
yeah,
we don't want anyone doing that. Because it sort of walked around the entire system.
But here's the connection nobody is making. The ban wasn't merely about faith. The blacklist wasn't simply about scandal. This was a calculated, industry-wide effort to make sure the public never saw this film. And when Joe Rogan finally pieced the puzzle together, he nearly broke. Joe Rogan has sat across from presidents. He's questioned war heroes, billionaires, scientists, and fighters who stared death directly in the eye. The man rarely falters. He is forged for calm under fire. So when Mel Gibson took a seat across from him and began revealing the truths behind the making of The Passion of the Christ, the silence that descended over the studio was unlike anything before, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't a publicity stunt. Gibson wasn't there to push tickets or polish a reputation. He was finally exposing what he had borne for over 20 years. And Rogan, known for leaning in, questioning, pushing every boundary, just listened. Because what Gibson unveiled wasn't Hollywood rumor. It wasn't gossip masquerading as controversy. It was something far darker. It was the story of a whole industry, in secretive rooms, through canceled meetings and ignored calls, deciding that a story about Jesus Christ must never reach audiences. And they came dangerously close to succeeding.
it was like Hollywood resistance. People didn't like that you were making it.
There was a lot of opposition.
To grasp why Joe Rogan's reaction hit so hard, you must return to the very start. Not the start of the film, the start of the battle. When Mel Gibson first envisioned The Passion of the Christ, he wasn't some unknown filmmaker pitching a dangerous indie idea. This was a man with Academy Awards, the mind behind Braveheart, one of the most revered films of its era. He had authority, credibility, connections, and none of it counted. The instant Gibson declared this movie would not soften agony, would not sanitize the crucifixion, would not hand audiences a comforting retelling, the walls began to rise. Not with shouting, not with chaos. Silently, politely, deliberately. Calls that once received answers went unanswered. Meetings that once occurred vanished. Allies who had been loyal for years suddenly had pressing agendas elsewhere. The warning was clear, even if unspoken. This story is not wanted here.
Christianity is the one religion that you're allowed to disparage.
Yeah.
Christianity is the one religion where they'll embrace all these different religions until it comes to Christianity.
That glaring double standard was what Gibson couldn't accept. Movies exploring every other faith handled with respect, depth, devotion. But the moment someone told Jesus Christ's story with unflinching honesty, it became an issue. Suddenly, it was excessive. Suddenly, it was taboo. And those objections didn't come from below. They came from the very highest echelons of Hollywood.
Rupert Murdoch said, he wanted to, and then he said, and then somebody advised him and said he'd be out of business in 5 years. Rupert Murdoch. Wow. In 5 years if he distributed.
Read that again. Rupert Murdoch, one of the world's most influential media moguls. A man who built a vast empire on provocation and headlines. Privately warned that distributing Mel Gibson's film about Jesus Christ would destroy his business within 5 years. This wasn't concern over quality. This wasn't financial caution. This was a direct threat, and it worked. Murdoch stepped back, and every major studio followed suit. While Gibson battled the machine from the director's chair, another actor faced a different kind of cost. Jim Caviezel was among Hollywood's brightest talents. Sharp, commanding, a presence that directors couldn't define, yet couldn't dismiss. Mel Gibson first noticed him in a close-up from Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line. Something in that frame radiated an otherworldly calm. An authenticity that couldn't be faked made Gibson stop and demand, "Who is that?"
And it was just a big close-up of Caviezel. And there was something otherworldly and childlike going on there in the close-up. And I thought, who's that guy? He's amazing.
Gibson offered Caviezel the part. And before he could even grasp the weight of agreeing, Gibson's team pulled him aside and spelled out, in chilling detail, exactly what saying yes would demand.
For this one conversation I had with Mel Gibson and the whole team that came in, and just said, wow, these are the stakes. My team split.
Or his own team fractured. His agents, the ones entrusted with safeguarding his future, couldn't agree on the choice. Half warned it would destroy everything he'd fought for. Half insisted he couldn't refuse. Caught in the storm, Caviezel had to sit with his wife and weigh what mattered most, fame or the story. Against the odds, he made his decision. He said yes.
And I took it. The phone stopped ringing.
Just like that, the phone went dead. Not slowly, not over weeks as the project unfolded. The instant it leaked that Jim Caviezel had committed to portraying Jesus Christ in Mel Gibson's film, Hollywood froze in silence. And Caviezel felt, with chilling clarity, the full weight of what that eerie quiet truly meant.
And I thought, what am I doing here? An evil movie? I mean, who buys the tickets in America to these movies? Aren't they Christians? Are we that evil?
That question hit Joe Rogan hardest because it wasn't about religion. It was about humanity. Millions of Christians, the largest faith group in America. And somehow, an industry built to entertain that very audience had silently decided their story, their core story, was too dangerous to tell. Even after the funding vanished, even after studios backed away, even after Hollywood made its stance clear, production on The Passion of the Christ moved forward. What happened next is the part the mainstream refuses to acknowledge, because what unfolded on that Italian set was anything but normal. Jim Caviezel approached the role with a commitment that transcended standard preparation. He didn't study the character superficially. He emptied himself entirely, body and soul, leaving nothing untouched, no thought unexamined, no emotion unoffered to the story he had bravely agreed to tell.
He emptied himself out.
Yeah.
And he invited something else in. And he left it. He didn't try anything. He emptied himself out and he meditated. And he let Christ in.
Gibson, a man who has directed some of the finest actors alive, said he had never witnessed anything like this. Every other actor who played Jesus never fully convinced him. Something always felt off. But with Caviezel, it was different. Something undefinable, something he couldn't articulate then and still struggles to now. Then came the physical toll. The cross Caviezel bore weighed over 150 pounds. In one take, it dislocated his shoulder completely. During the scourging, he was struck with real whips, not props, not illusions, twice. Once with enough force to knock the wind entirely from him. His hands split. His body faltered. The agony on screen was no act. It was truth. And then came the lightning.
Wind was blowing and then I couldn't hear the wind. And I could feel the suctioning occur. And then it was probably more like 3 seconds. It felt like 5, but it was probably less than that. And then boom, I was in shock. I died on the operating table. I've never told that, but I died. The reason why I brought that up is I felt incredible peace and love that's waiting for us.
Caviezel had never spoken those words publicly before that instant. He would die on an operating table years after the film, a direct result of injuries endured during production. And what he revealed, what he claimed to have lived through, is the kind of story that silences Joe Rogan in a way his millions of listeners had never heard. Because Rogan doesn't go quiet unless something undeniable has entered the room. And the lightning didn't stop with Caviezel. Assistant director John Michelini was struck twice during filming. The first strike hit on a hill amid a storm, surrounded by crosses and crew members scrambling for cover. The second time,
Found him in a Fiat Bambino with his knees up around his ears, like waiting for the third strike. He was like, this just doesn't happen twice in the third strike. And he says, I have to change my life.
lightning strikes, the same man on the same set, and his reaction was not to sue, not to quit, not to alert the press. His reaction was to realize his life had to change, and it did. Michelini went on to direct television. His path shifted entirely because of what occurred on that hill. The film was completed against every obstacle, against every closed door, against the full force of an industry that had decreed this story must never be told. Mel Gibson held a finished masterpiece. And now he faced a new dilemma. No one would release it. Not a single major studio. The same companies eager to attach themselves to violent action films, morally gray thrillers, or comedies mocking every institution imaginable suddenly drew the line, suddenly imposed limits, suddenly fretted over what audiences might think.
I got these messages back. All the majors wouldn't distribute it. So I was like, nobody will distribute it. Okay, I guess I've lost, the money, but it was worth the experience.
Gibson had already lost Hollywood. He had already lost allies. He had already watched his colleagues vanish, one after another. And now he was ready to lose the money too. He had made peace with the chance that this film, the one into which he had poured his soul, might never play in a single theater. Then one hand rose. A tiny distribution company called New Market Films. A team so small Gibson joked it was just one man, a toothless dog, a fax machine, and an assistant. That was it. That was the entire barrier standing between the Passion of the Christ and total erasure. Gibson went straight to theater owners. He forged handshake deals. He bypassed the entire distribution machine Hollywood had spent decades perfecting, designed to dictate which stories reached the public and which were quietly buried forever.
You want to just see that? Anyone just see what that guy did? Can't let that guy do that again. And we don't want anyone doing that, because it sort of walked around the entire system.
Yes.
And scored.
The film every studio refused to touch. The film Rupert Murdoch was warned could destroy his empire. The film that cost Jim Caviezel his career before a single frame reached audiences made $612 million at the box office on a $30 million budget. It became the highest-grossing R-rated film in American history, a record it held for 2 decades. It became the highest-grossing independent film ever made, the highest-grossing non-English language film ever produced. And Hollywood could only sit and watch it unfold. Now comes the moment the saga was building toward, because none of what you've just heard shattered Joe Rogan. Box office totals didn't break him. Lightning strikes didn't break him. Even Caviezel dying on an operating table and returning, incredible as that was, didn't fully unnerve Rogan. What broke him was simpler and infinitely more ruthless. It was the question Mel Gibson posed about the apostles, the men who walked alongside Jesus, who witnessed his death and then claimed he rose, enduring torture, exile, execution for that claim. Every single one chose death over denying their testimony. That's it. That was the moment that silenced Joe Rogan. For words, 12 letters. The simplest possible confrontation to the most comfortable dismissal of Christianity, that it's all myth, legend, superstition draped in robes. Rogan, whose career thrived on evidence, skepticism, and dismantling every unverified claim, had no answer. None. Nothing could withstand the weight of what Gibson described. Men with nothing to gain. Men with everything to lose. Men who saw friends die refusing to say 3 words, "We made it up," and still refused. That's not the behavior of liars. And Rogan knew it. It struck him deeper than debate, beyond argument, because in that instant, it wasn't about faith. It was about dying for truth and living without ever being tested. But one more layer exists here. Beyond the film, the box office, even the supernatural events on set. Mel Gibson didn't just depict institutional resistance to Jesus. He experienced it. And in the 2 decades of personal cost that followed, he recognized a pattern extending far beyond Hollywood. The same system he portrayed on screen, authorities protecting reputation over justice, structures shielding power over people, silence when courage was demanded. He watched it unfold in real institutions with real victims. Gibson spoke openly about church abuse scandals, not as an outsider, not for political points, but as someone who loved the institution and felt betrayed by the silence, by relocating offenders, by systems safeguarding the powerful rather than the vulnerable. Here is where the film transcends cinema. Gibson showed it, Pontius Pilate trapped between conscience and survival, leaders unwilling to risk position, betrayal through silence and compliance, not history, a recurring blueprint. This is the truth Joe Rogan couldn't shake. He has spent years on his podcast confronting institutional failure, systems protecting themselves at the expense of people. He's interviewed whistleblowers. He's given voice to the voices mainstream ignored. He knows the cost of speaking truth inside a structure where truth is inconvenient. Across from Mel Gibson, he saw a man who bore that cost on the largest stage, blacklisted, humiliated, dragged through scandal, yet still brimming with conviction. That's what broke him. Not theology, not testimony. Because this story isn't finished. Gibson has been quietly, deliberately, crafting a sequel, not conventional, but something more audacious, a film of the resurrection, not merely the empty tomb, not just the 40 days that followed. Gibson and screenwriter Randall Wallace have built a narrative spanning from the fall of angels to the death of the last apostle. A cosmic saga of death defeated. A story that, if realized, will make the Passion of the Christ feel like a rehearsal. And Gibson knows the resistance awaits. Doors will close again. Calls will go unanswered. The quiet machinery that tried to bury his last film will turn once more. He anticipates it. He plans for it. And given the last time, when the film Hollywood Tried to Kill became one of the most lucrative independent productions ever, it's not clear Hollywood should feel safe now. Mel Gibson has done something dangerously subversive. He proved you can bypass the system entirely. make deals directly with theaters, self-finance, self-distribute, and surpass the studios who rejected you. He mapped the path, and now everyone can see it. The story boils down to this: Hollywood decided, collectively, that the Passion of the Christ would not exist. And if it did, it would fail commercially. They were wrong on every count. In the years since, the creators have paid a personal price. Jim Caviezel's phone went silent the moment he agreed, yet he accepted the role. Mel Gibson risked bankruptcy to make it. Jan Michelini was struck by lightning twice and returned to work. And Joe Rogan, one of the most influential voices globally, a skeptic by trade, faced Gibson and felt what he couldn't dispute. You can debate scripture, theology, miracles, lightning, psychology, but you cannot argue with a man who lost everything for a story he believed in. Nor can you dispute that the story survived. That's what nobody grasped. Not just that Hollywood tried to stop it, but that they failed, and the story, too dangerous, too divisive, too real, exists anyway, capturing the hearts of hundreds of millions and becoming the highest-grossing R-rated film ever.